Hello gamers, Matthew here from Grey Army Gaming. For today's video, we're going to be playing Betrayal at Baldur's Gate and modifying the rules a little bit to be able to play it in solo mode. Ta-da! If you're not familiar with this game, it is based upon the board game Betrayal at House on the Hill, and it uses more or less the same mechanics. Now, the game is divided into two important parts. In the first part, you will be exploring. So your adventuring party will begin on one of these tiles, and through adding more tiles, whether they are buildings, catacombs, or streets, you will build out the world and the city. As you explore these different tiles, there will be different events, items, or omens that you come across with, and eventually, if you have enough omens, you will roll off your dice, and if you roll a 6, you will activate what is called the Haunt. For the solo version of this game, we are going to follow the exploring phase just like in the normal game. We are going to have our 3 characters here, one dwarf, one human, and one drow, and we're going to go ahead and explore the city and build it out just like you would in the normal game. Just like in the normal game, we will continue and collect our omen cards until we get to the point that we need to roll our d6s, and once we come over the threshold, we will not begin a haunt, but we will immediately move to our boss battle. Here's how the mechanic for the haunt or boss battle will work. Once we have crossed the threshold of omen cards and we have rolled a 6, we will take the tile in which we have crossed the threshold on and try to find a corresponding battle map that is of close enough resemblance to the tile. Once we have set down our battlefield, we will then place our adventurers, our figurines, on one side of the battlefield. Now we will assume that all of them have piled into this tile once they found out that a fight was starting. So all of our own adventurers will be placed on one side of the battlefield, and then we will go ahead and place our boss on the other side. Our boss will be given a total of 12 wounds, as you see on this marker. Once the boss gets down to 0, the boss is defeated. Now, the boss will be given characteristics of 6s, so not perfectly strong, but also not weak either. So that means that the boss will be rolling 6 dice for attack and defense. Were the boss to be dropped down to half of its hit points, so down to 6 in the first round, then immediately in the next round, 2 skeleton warriors will join the battle in defense of the boss. The skeleton warriors will have characteristics of 3s. Were the boss dropped to half of that, down to 3 hit points in the second round, then 2 additional skeleton warriors will also join the battle. With respect to the rules for combat, we will be using the rules provided in this rule book. That doesn't mean that all the rules will work out, so we will supplement them by any other rules that we think are appropriate from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, or any other rules that just seem logically appropriate for the situation. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and begin our solo playthrough of Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. Our story begins late at night, and a dreary evening in the Elfsong Tavern. The sound of clinking glasses of ale can be heard between the plunkings of a bard playing a horrible rendition of a song on his out-of-tune lute. Gathering around a table in the center of the tavern, ale in hand, are our 3 adventurers who are plotting their next move. The shortest of them is adorned in a golden robe.
"It is I, Toshkar Stonecleaver, dwarf barbarian."
Across from him is a taller, human-looking figure adorned in flowing, majestic red robes.
"It is I, Ralvia Eskinor, human sorcerer."
And finally, sitting across from him is an elegantly dressed but dark-looking figure. It is I, Leah Fen Tlalbor, drow warlock. As the group is finishing up their ale, Torshkar suddenly throws his glass down on the table.
"I've had enough of this. It is time for us to do some exploring. Come on, we are here for a reason."
Ralvia slowly raises his eyes.
"I quite concur. It is time for us to enter out into the city."
As you wish, pipes in Leah Fen Tlalbar. We shall go exploring. And let us go ahead now and begin by assigning the order of initiative with our random draw of cards. So conveniently, it will play out in the order that we have spoken, beginning with Toshkar, then going to Ralvio, and then ending up with Leah.
"All right, I'm going to the kitchen."
Now with a speed of 4, Torskar is going to walk through the kitchen and try to open up a new direction. Torskar pushes through the door and enters into the storehouse. And indeed, inside of the storehouse, hidden behind one of the chairs, is an item. So let's go ahead and draw a random item card. Caltrops, a polite way of telling someone to stop following you around. Well, this will be a good card to have when we later get into combat, so we will save that under Torskar's card. Ralvio, not to be undone by Torskar, heads in through the inner chamber and heads south.
I shall head south to the inner chamber.
As Ralvio enters through the door, he looks and immediately sees items strewn all around in the spy's roost. There are weapons, there are barrels, there are crossbows, arrows, jugs, maps laid out on a desktop.
Well, this is a bit curious indeed.
And immediately this triggers an event card. A flump appears. As Ralvio is scanning the room, suddenly he sees a jellyfish-like creature with eyes floating out of the corner, gesturing emphatically with its barbed tentacles.
Oh my, this is indeed an odd sight.
And with that, Ralvio will need to attempt a knowledge roll with 4 dice. On a 4+, you discover a hidden treasure cache. Draw an item card. As he begins to dig through the rubble, Ralvio eventually pulls aside the stones and sees 2 strange cubes lying on the floor, and it is the gambler's dice. And despite their sinister appearance, Ralvio suddenly feels like his luck is going to turn around. This is going to be a great item for Ralvio to have. It will allow him to re-roll any dice that rolled a 0. So that will be a very important card. However, for each of the re-rolled dice that is still a 0, he will need to take 1 point of mental damage.
Very curious indeed. I would be sure not to show these to Torskar.
And with that, Ralvio places the dice inside of his coat pocket. Seeing her 2 compadres head south, Leah Fan says to herself,
I shall not follow these fools south. I go my own path.
And she heads north. Pushing through the door, Leah Fan finds herself walking into an odd square, planters of flowers surrounding the door, and in front of her, an odd-like stone portal. She has entered the Rose Portal. And that will trigger an event card. A vision of murder. Immediately, as Leah Fen walks through the door, she comes into this courtyard and sees in front of her the rose portal with the stones that are electrified, shooting electric shocks out from them. And immediately, one of these lightning bolts strikes her in the head, bringing a vision to her. Her head swims as she sees a moment lost in time, a killer snapping his victim's neck and throwing them off a building, the body falling for what seems like forever. And with that, Leah Fen must now attempt a knowledge roll. And with the roll of a powerful 8, Leah Fen recognizes the killer as Saravok and remembers that he was brought to justice. This comforts her, and she gains 1 point of sanity. From Leah Fen's dramatic moment by the Rose Portal, we head back to Torskar Stonecleaver.
Well, I grab myself an ale and I will head to the west.
And this will be another building tile. As Torskar walks through the door, he is immediately taken aback as he enters the House of Blood. Strewn around on the floor are tables and chairs. There are shields and weapons that are broken, and there, lying on the ground with bloody wounds, are 3 soldiers. Immediately, he pulls out his axe.
What has happened here?
When he leaves this room, Torskar will need to take a sanity check, but for now, he will get an omen card. And the omen card that is going to be drawn is the Berserker Axe. As he's rummaging through the pile of bodies and weapons and other items, Toshkar finds a glimmering weapon lying on the ground. He picks it up in his hand. It is the Berserker axe. This axe was made to kill, he says to himself. It just needs my help to fulfill its destiny. This is thematically perfect for Toshkar. This will give him 2 additional dice, a maximum of 8 dice when making a might attack with this weapon, which is amazing because he is a barbarian who carries an axe. No need to roll for a haunt or for our boss battle because there's no chance we will come over the threshold at 6 at this point, so let's move over to Ralvio.
Spies roost indeed. Time for us to explore a little more of the city.
As Ralvio exits the door of the Elf Song Tavern, he comes into a square, the beloved Ranger statue square. To his right, he sees a cart with a barrel, and to his left, more barrels ahead, other items randomly strewn throughout the street. The cobblestone has an upraised platform where there used to be a statue, but now there's nothing left but 2 marks of footprints. As he inspects it a little closer, he sees an inscription that has been left there. Minsk and Boo were here.
Oh, that seems strange. The ranger statue is no longer here. But I'm feeling strangely invigorated.
Ralvio will choose to end his turn here, and he will thereby gain 1 level in speed, which will in fact move him up to a whopping 6. So that is a very good benefit for Ralvio. Having also been invigorated, Leah Fen will continue west through the city. As she charges through the archway, immediately Leah Fen is thrown back as a horrific stench meets her nose, her nostrils. She has now entered the trash pile. It looks like I've stumbled into the place that people want to pretend doesn't exist. Oh, these humans of Baldur's Gate are totally insufferable. And as Leah Fen enters the trash heap, immediately an event is triggered. Fireside Horrors. As Leah Fen continues to scan this area, she is struck by something that she did not initially notice when she came in. There are statue after statue after statue of grotesque forms that are filling this area. She wonders to herself, is this a collection or a horde? Why have people dumped all of these horrific statues here? And with that, we will need to make a knowledge roll on 4 dice. On a roll of 5, it's carnival season! Gain 1 knowledge. So apparently people were dumping these statues here as a part of their carnival celebrations. Let's go ahead and give Leah Fen 1 additional knowledge. We head back to Toshkar in the House of Blood.
Oh, this bloody mess. Well, at least I got a bloody axe out of the deal. Come on, let's head north.
As the door opens, Toshkar slowly walks into this incredible looking room, the Hall of Wonders.
What in the blazes? Whoa, this is interesting.
Immediately he looks straight forward and he sees up on the roof what appears to be something like a mechanical flying machine. Directly ahead of him, something like a mechanical horse made out of steel. To the left, he sees some kind of fan device, and behind him now, to the left, he sees also what looks to be an interesting coat of armor. It looks like he's ended up in some kind of trinket hall, a collection of strange devices. As he begins to look around, immediately he senses something. An event is triggered, and it is Test of the Dead 3.
What a spectacular place!
Toshkar says to himself as he enters the room. He walks around, inspecting the different trinkets, eventually coming to the set of armor. He lifts his berserker axe and ever so slightly and softly taps on the armor. And when he does this, the helmet falls off of the armor. Cling, 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 cling. It bounces into the middle of the room. And out of the helmet, there's suddenly a sound. 3 spectral images appear before him. A sinister warrior clad in armor, a shriveled skeletal mage in robes, and a sneering man who carries a bloody dagger. Toshkar immediately senses that they are here to test him. All at once, the 3 apparitions look directly at Toshkar, opening their mouths, simultaneously speaking out.
You have dared to disturb our slumber, and for that we will now test you. Are you a worthy warrior to wake us up? For that we must see your might, your speed, and your knowledge.
Okay, we need to take a check for might, speed, and knowledge. Let's begin with might, 5 dice. We need a 2+ to be unaffected. And with a 4, he is unaffected there. Next, we need to roll for speed. We are rolling 4 dice. And there is a 4, so he's unaffected there as well. And finally, it is knowledge. We have 3 dice here. We need a 2+, and it is a 3, so he is unaffected there as well. All 3 of the ghosts simultaneously bow before Torskar.
You have passed the test, and therefore we may let you go on your way.
And Torskar is going to remain in the Hall of Wonders with these trinkets, which means he gains 1 point in his knowledge. We can go ahead now and jump over to Ralvio.
Let us continue with our luck in the city.
And with that, he is going to continue through the square and the gate on the south. As Ralvio pushes through the gate, he comes into what looks to be a smaller alleyway. Straight ahead of him, he sees nothing but stone blocks with piled up crates that have been broken. To his left, he sees a pile of wood and a chopping block, a dead cat around his feet.
Oh my, it looks like I've come to something of a dead end.
And that will now also trigger an event, the Lonely Chest. As Ralvio begins to survey the detritus of this alleyway, his foot bumps against something that sounds rather hollow. He looks down, and there he sees a lonely chest. A treasure chest sitting here all by itself, pristine and shiny, strange in this sort of context where everything is dirty and worn. It's just waiting for him to come and plunder it. The question is, does Ralvio want to open it? Yes, he does. Ralvio opens the chest. We will roll 2 dice to see the result. Double zeros, and this is not a good roll for Ralvio. As he stoops down to open this treasure chest, he sees that there's no lock, so the latch is easy to open. He slowly gets his face next to the treasure chest and begins ever so slowly to open up the treasure chest. And when he gets it about an inch wide, suddenly the treasure chest springs to life, baring its teeth. It is a mimic! It is a mimic! It jumps up and grabs onto Ralvio's arm, and suddenly now he can feel the blood running down his arm. He takes his staff and strikes the mimic, and the mimic lets go of its grasp, falls down and skitters in behind the crates. Ralvio is going to take 1 point of physical damage. I think we should go ahead and take this off from his speed characteristic. So dropping him down to a 4 where he was before. Leah Fenn is now going to head out of the trash pile, escaping from the stench, heading back through the Rose Portal Square and into the city. Leah Fenn is immediately struck by the bustling nature of the square that she enters. She has entered into a marketplace. There are people shouting out prices for livestock and for different produce and wares. She looks to her left and sees that there are jugs for sale. To her right, bottles with different kinds of potions, produce ahead of her, people selling everything possible. She begins to walk through the marketplace, and there behind a barrel, something glimmering catches her eye. She slowly walks over to the barrel, around the barrel, and looking down, and she suddenly sees an item. The gleaming metal that she sees proves to be just the very end of a longer weapon that is meticulously hidden along the stone wall. She reaches down and pulls out a 10-foot pole. Well, this might come in handy if I ever need to prevent some damage to myself, Leah Fenn thinks to herself as she pulls the pole out and ties it to her back.
Let's head back now to our dwarf, Torskar Stonecleaver.
I realize now that when I had entered the Hall of Wonders, I forgot to take a sanity roll when he left the House of Blood. So let's go ahead and do that now. He has a sanity of 3, and we need to roll a 3+ here. So that is a success, no ill effects to him. Let's go ahead now and move him.
I have passed the test. Even the spirits think I'm capable. We will continue pushing on to the west.
And with that, Torskar enters into a room, the shrine to Gargoth, and immediately he is struck by the strangeness of this room. In the center of the room there is a table with some kind of food on it, food offerings of a sort, surrounded by tables, and off in the upper left corner there is a strange area that has been sealed off by two walls of curtains. He walks ever so slowly and begins to peek through the curtains, and he sees an odd-looking shrine of sorts, a grayish, stonish shrine, and there, lying at the feet of the shrine, are different kinds of offerings of bone and food and weapons.
I never really was one for religion,
he says as he slowly backs up. You can tell, however, that Torskar is a bit unnerved by this strange scene. And with that, we will trigger an omen card. And as he is slowly beginning to back out of the room, Torskar bumps against the table, and he looks down and he sees falling off the table is an old, dusty tome. He slowly picks it up and begins to leaf through the book, and he sees that it's full of strange writings, secrets. Some of them look to be quite useful, others look to be quite dangerous. He has come across a book of spells.
Well, this could be useful,
he says as he throws it into his leather pouch and begins to move on. We still have only 2 omen cards, which means the highest roll you can get is a 4, so we don't need to roll this one. Let's move on to Ralvio. With blood gushing down his arm from the attack of the mimic, Ralvio turns around and says,
Let's get out of this cursed dead end and head out of the street. Let's get indoors.
Ralvio puts his might into opening this door. It's a little heavier than the other doors, and it does not open as easily. And when he gets the door open, he sees why. He has come into a warehouse. This is not a very well-organized warehouse. There are items all over the place, barrels, and there are weapons, and crates, and ropes, and wheelbarrows, and all things you could imagine. However, interestingly enough, the lanterns are lit in the warehouse as if someone had already been in here earlier today and was rummaging around in the warehouse. Ralvio makes his way around the table, the pile of junk, and as he is getting closer to the wheelbarrow now, he looks down underneath the table, and he sees something. He looks in, and on top of the crate, he sees a small piece of fabric. He begins to pull it out, and he realizes that this is not a small piece of fabric, but in fact, a large piece of fabric. He pulls it out, and suddenly he sees that this is an entire cloak, a dark, brownish, black cloak that has something of a hood on it with a beak, and on the back of it is stitched into it with beautiful embroidery, different shapes that look like bats. And immediately, Ralvio recognizes this as the cloak of the bat, and he knows that when he's confronted with danger, he can use this cloak to help him escape, turn into a bat, and flee from the danger.
Very, very fine goods,
Ralvio proclaims as he pulls the cloak out, looking around to make sure no one is around, and sees him. He shoves it into his satchel. With her pole on her back, Leah Fenn pushes through the marketplace and exits out of the archway on the opposite side. Instantly, Leah Fenn feels a coldness, a chill run through her entire body. It is a feeling that she has had before in her life, and with each step on the cold cobblestone, she senses the coldness growing. To her left and to her right, she sees dead trees that have no leaves. Perhaps they've never had leaves. Off in the distance, she hears the howls of wolves or hounds. Over her head, she sees crows and bats flying, and off in the distance, another gate with a single fire burning next to the gate. And with this, we will need to draw another omen card. As Leah Fenn makes her way down the cobblestone towards the other exit, she suddenly notices that the dirt in the cobblestone, the dirt between the cobblestone now seems to be moving and forming and coming together and rising from the ground into a pitiable, misshapen humanoid figure that now stands before her, made from clay and dirt, no more than a foot tall. It emerges from the shadows, from the stones, and stares at her with black, unblinking eyes.
My master.
Leah Fenn now has with her a companion, a homunculus, who will follow her around wherever she goes, and when he follows her she gains 1 might and 1 knowledge. If he were to leave or be destroyed, she would lose that 1 might and 1 knowledge. That was our third omen card, so now we need to roll 3 dice to see if we move to the boss battle. We are rolling 3 dice, and if we roll a 6, we'll immediately move into combat. A roll of a 3, which means that our exploration will continue.
This place gives me the heebie-jeebies. Let's get out of here.
Pushing through the door, Torskar Stonecleaver stumbles into something of a stone square. To the bottom left, he sees what looks to be some kind of cursed statue surrounded by white, bone-white skulls. There are candles and lanterns lit there that shine this eerie glow off of the skulls, reflecting back into his eyes.
Oh, well, this doesn't seem to be any better.
And with that, he takes a few steps into the center of the square. Arriving in the center of the square, Torskar looks around.
Oh, this city of Baldur's Gate is certainly not a nice place. Oh, I can't wait to be getting out of here.
And at that moment, something catches his eye. Down by the skulls by the statue, he sees a small piece of metal. It looks to be an iron flask that is shuddering and quaking on the ground as if something wants to get out.
Oh, that's curious. Who would leave such an item by a statue like this?
Torskar walks slowly to the stone statue, bends down by the skulls, and picks up the flask. Immediately, he feels some energy moving through his hand and his arm, as if there's something important in here.
Well, I'll put this in my pocket. You never know when I will need it again.
And with that, he puts it into his satchel and turns around to leave the square. That was our 4th omen card, which means that we now need to roll 4 dice, and if we roll a 6+ on those dice, we will immediately move to our boss battle. Alright, that is a 6, which means that we are now moving to combat. So this is the tile, the cursed statue tile that we are going to try to approximate as much as possible in our battlefield. And let's not use a dragon for this, but let's use a different boss. This is the Tomb Giant, and he looks a bit like the statue. So for the sake of the narrative, we can say this, that the statue comes to life and begins to attack our heroes. There you have it, folks. We have the full setup now for this cursed statue square in which we will fight our boss battle. Our adventurers enter into the north here through this gateway, and we have all 3 of them along with the companion. And as they enter the square now, they look over at this statue down here in the southwest, and immediately now the statue begins to rumble as it comes to life and steps down off of the platform.
I am finally free!
All right, let's go ahead and figure out initiative now. We are going to mix up these cards, these 4 cards now this time. We're going to pass them out. Let's start here first with our boss, and he is going to go first. We have a number 1 there, okay? Then let's do our drow. Our drow will go 4th. That's number 4. Let's do our next, our dwarf. He's going to go 2nd, and that means we go 3rd with our wizard. All right, we've got 6 movement here for our boss, which means 6 times 5, we're going to go 30 feet for him. He can move double movement on 6, so let's move him 30 feet into the center of the battlefield. We'll leave him right there, 25 feet. Now, our boss is able to do terrible things psychologically, so we're going to be able to attack with sanity attacks here onto him. We're going to go off on him, sanity attack up to 30 feet, and we're going to go rolling for 6 sanity dice. So 6 dice on a sanity attack against Ralvio. A total of 5 attacks going through 5 wounds. So coming back with a defense of 4 for Ralvio. He has 4 insanity points. So coming back 1, 2, 3, 4. So he will take 1. Seeing what is happening, Torshgar is going to charge in. With his Berserker Axe and his Might, he's going to be attacking for 7 dice. 8 damage. Now we're defending with 6. So a mighty 4 points of damage goes through. Ralvio's turn. He is also going to charge in and join his friend. As a sorcerer, Ralvio is going to be attacking with knowledge. So 4 dice. And we need to roll 1 die. If we get a blank, we subtract 1 from that. No, we don't. So it's 4 that goes through. We are coming back now with 6 defense to 4. Over to Leah Fen. She's going to use her movement of 3 to move her 15 feet. And then she's going to shoot off some Eldritch Blast. Firing from here on top of the grate over onto the boss. It's a sanity roll for her Eldritch Blast, so she gets 7 dice. That is a whopping 10 damage. We have 6 defense for our boss. 5 points on the save, which means that we drop down 5 points, hit points on that amazing Eldritch Blast. And what this means now is that our boss has been dropped below half of his hit points in the first round. So that means immediately now he will have skeleton warriors come into play. But not only that, because we have dropped down to 3 hit points, we will have a total of 4 skeletons come into play. So there we go, 4 skeletons, 2 coming from each of the entrances, and they will now go with our boss's initiative, so all of them will get to begin. Starting out, let's have the skeletons charge into the dwarf. First skeleton, we have a might of 3, and we is against a total of 5, so that's 4 points there, and we have 5 defense. So can we beat that? Oh, no problem. So the second skeleton now is also going to attack with 3 dice. So here we go, 3 dice, and we are doing a total of 4 damage. Can we defend against that? And no problem. Other skeletons are going to charge into our wizard. Three against 3. Here we go. Skeleton attack, and we're doing a total of 5. Can we defend against that? No, 4. We take 1. We'll take that point on our might. Go 3, and we're doing a total of 5. Also defending with 3. No, that's 4. So also 1 more. And here, let's drop 1 down on speed, down to 3. Successful attacks with the skeleton. Let's have our boss attack at the same guy, Ralvio. Might of 6. Here we go. 6 points of damage. All right, we have got 3 dice to defend with our wizard. He's not the strongest guy, but here we go. 3 dice. Let's see if we can get close to a 6. Oh, no. 4 points of damage. And there's no way around this, folks. If he takes 4 points of damage, he is going to die no matter what. We drop him down 1, 2, 3, and then we have to take 1 more, which will bring him to a skull, which means that Ralvio has been killed, taken out of battle. But wait, I forgot that we have the bat cloak. Let's put him back. On a speed roll of 3 plus, we actually do 1 less damage. We suffer 1 less damage, which will mean he'll stay alive. So 3 plus, let's roll 3 dice for our speed. We need a 3 plus. Here we go. No, it's a 2! No! But we also have the Gambler's Dice, which allows us to reroll 1 0 dice at any point in the game. So let's go ahead and roll that 1 0. We need to get a 1 or a 2. Yes, he is still in. Yes, 1 point of damage. Let's go ahead and put that onto his might. So he is at 2 for might, and he is at 3 for speed. Ah! So those cards have been really good now in order to save our hero. He is really close to death, but that is still really good. Let's move over now to our dwarf, Torskar, and he is going to move out of combat with those skeletons in order to try to get a position on the other side of our boss. Both skeletons getting attacks of opportunity, 3 dice against 5. So here's the first attack. That is a 3. He's defending with 5. And no problem. Second skeleton is going to be attacking with 3 as well. And that is a 4. Let's roll 5 dice. We got to beat a 4. Here we go. No problem. So Torstar Stonecleaver attacking in the back of the boss with the Berserker Axe. Gives him a might of 7. 7 dice. 6 points of damage. We are defending with 6. Seven points of defense. Nothing goes through. Moving on next to our wizard. Ralvio is again attacking with knowledge. Attacking with 4 dice. Ooh, and that's pretty good. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now with 6 for the boss. Also 5, so no damage goes through. Let's run over to our drow. Our drow is going to run over and jump up on top of the crates to get a good angle for some Eldritch Blast. And the little companion's going to follow along. Here we go, Eldritch Blast from on top of this crate down onto the boss. Here we go, Eldritch Blast with Sanity. We are rolling 7 dice. Another amazing roll of 10 damage, and we have 6 dice to defend with against 10 damage. Dice to defend, which means 4 points of damage goes through, dropping our boss down to 0. With their master gone, the skeletons don't have much of a chance left, but they are going to try to fight on a little bit. We're going to collapse 2 of them into our wizard and 2 into our dwarf. Attacking our wizard now, 3 on 2. Here we go. And there's 2 against how many defense? Oh, no. 1 point of damage. And that is it for Ralvio this time. He has nothing else to save him. One of his markers goes down to the Deathly Skull, which means he is now out of the game. The other skeleton, not having anything to do, is going to continue his charge into the dwarf. So 3 skeletons on Torskar. The skeletons rolling with 3. Torskar defending with 5. So there is 3 for the attack and the defense roll of 3. So that does not go through. Next skeleton rolling for 3. Here we go. And it's a 4. Can he defend against 4? Here we go. Yes, that's a 5. And the last skeleton also rolling a 3. And let's see if Torskar can do better than that. Yes. This attack and the killing of Ralvio makes Torskar furious. So he turns around in his position and begins to attack the nearest skeleton. Let's say the guy to the right. 5 attack dice. Here we go. 6 damage going through. Let's see if they can defend it with 3. Here we go. And there's only 3. So no, that means 3 points of damage going through, killing that skeleton. Our drow friend is going to leap down and shoot another Eldritch Blast at one of the skeletons. Shooting off on this guy right here. Using her sanity, this is going to be a bloodbath, folks. 8 damage now, defending with only 3. So here we go, defending with 3 dice against 8 damage. That's going to be 2, 4. So 4 goes through. That's still enough to kill the skeleton. Seeing the writing on the wall and how quickly their friends were decimated, these other 2 skeletons are going to hightail it out of there and get out of the room as quickly as possible, fleeing the scenario and the battle. And with that, an eerie stillness comes over the courtyard. The boss has been slain. The skeletons have been slain. Some of them have fled. And there, lying dead, is their good friend, Ralvio.
It's a bloody shame. He was a good wizard.
Yes, indeed he was. Come, let us gather together our remaining items, and let's get out of the city of Baldur's Gate.
I couldn't agree more. Come, help me carry his body, and we will take him out and give him a proper burial.
Yes, I can do that. And as quickly as they can, Lia, Fen, Tralbar, and Torskar Stonecleaver carry the body of their good friend Ralvio Escanor out of the city of Baldur's Gate to give him an honored burial and to never return to this cursed city. Well, there you have it, folks. My solo playthrough of Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, in which we divided up the exploring section and the combat section. The rules in the combat section were a little flexible, but I think they could work. With a little more tweaking, I think we could really make this into a really great solo experience. Now, I love the prompts in the exploration part of it, and I had a lot of fun role-playing those. That alone, I think, is cool enough if you just want to go explore a city. That can give you some really fun solo role-playing experiences. But it's also cool, of course, to have the haunt or the boss battle at the end to feel like everything comes to a climax that is then resolved in a fantastic battle. Well, if you appreciate this kind of content and you want to see more solo role-playing videos in the future, please do give me a thumbs up, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel. I will continue to make more content like this in the future. And most importantly, thank you for joining us here today at Grey Army Gaming for the future of solo role-playing.